Hi, everyone. Hi again. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Isabella Maldonado, and I've been working alongside Devlin to create these beginner storyline sessions. And again, I myself am a beginner to storyline as well. I've only been using the program for about 2 months at this point, and I mainly learned through Devlin's Storyline Project Lab. And for me, that was a really big help to learn the program. Now, as for this session, we will be continuing our music player project because we ran out of time last week. And for this session, we're going to be focusing on how to add animations, triggers, and hotspots to our project, as well as how to replace items in storyline as well. Now, again, this right here is our project, and this session will be recorded. And if you are new to this session, you haven't seen last week's session, if you go to the Google Drive link, there is a storyline project which will catch you up to this week's session. So let's say you didn't attend last week's session, but you still want to participate in this session, just download that project and it will catch you up. So let's go ahead and dive into storyline. So from here, we're going to start right where we're going to start adding in those triggers in the animations. Now, the first thing I want to do in this session is I want to put in the animations for my slides. So if we look at our project, let me bring up our project and let me refresh it. Our welcome text and our listen to our personal playlist text, they have animation to them. So I'm going to refresh it again. They have a fade in animation and I want to add that to our project. And if I go to one of our songs, the album cover is going to fade in as well. And let me know if you all can't hear the music. So I'm gonna click on it and please let me know if you can or cannot hear it. Okay, sounds good. And I'm gonna move on to the next song so you can see that fade in animation again. So watch the album. So it fades in, and that's what we're going to add for right now. So let's go ahead and start with our home slide. So we're gonna click on our home slide and I'm gonna zoom in so we can see what we're doing. And to zoom in, the zoom in feature is in the bottom right corner. And I'm going to use the slider so we can see our welcome text. Now, to add animation, you need to first select the text. So I have it selected. And you need to go to the animation tab. So I'm going to select the animation tab. And for this animation, we want an entrance animation. So once the object appears in the timeline, we want it to enter in with this animation. So right now it's set to none, but we want to add fade. So I'll go ahead and do this again. So you need to go to the animations tab. Under entrance animation, you need to select fade. And for the duration, we do want it to be 0.75. So there we go. And let's go ahead and add the same animation to our listen to your personal playlist text as well. So we'll select it. We are already on the animation tab. So let's go to the entrance animation. We're going to change it from nothing to fade. And we do want the duration to be at 0.75. So let's go ahead and preview this slide, see what our animation is looking at like. So we're going to go to preview and we're going to go to this slide. Okay. Let's see. So it immediately fades in. So that's good, but I do want to make one tweak to it. I want to make it so after half a second, then it's going to start with its animation. So we're actually going to delay the animation by half a second. So to do this, we're going to be using the timeline itself. And remember that the timeline not only displays everything in our project, it also controls the timing as well. So let's use our welcome text. Oh, and if you notice, there are little stars by our text now. That is storyline letting us know that we have added animation to to this object. So let's select the object and let's find it in the timeline. So at the moment, this object is going to appear immediately when the timeline starts. So right at 0 seconds in, it's going to appear. So I want to delay it by half a second. So to do this, I'm going to select it and notice that my cursor has changed and I'm going to click and drag it. So it's about half. like halfway into this second, so about 2 ticks in. So I'll do that again. I'm going to select the side of it and I'm going to drag it so it's halfway in. And while we're here, while I'm waiting to see if anyone has any questions, let's preview this project so we can see the difference between the delayed animation and the normal animation. So at the moment, our listen to your playlist text does is not delayed. So it will start at the beginning of our timeline. So let's preview it. So you can see that our welcome text was delayed. And that is what we want. So let's go ahead and add it to our listen to your personal playlist text. So I'm going to close out of this. I'm going to select our personal playlist and I'm going to drag it so it will appear at the same time as our welcome text. So about half a second in. So this is what we want it to look like. We want this little gap right here. And I'm going to preview it again, this slide. So there is that delay, and that is what we want. So this slide is good for animation. We have completed all the animation for this slide. Let's compare it to our demo. So, yep. Oh, there was a slight delay. Hold on, if you notice, yeah, the listen to your personal playlist text was delayed a bit more. The reason there is a question of why I didn't group these text boxes. This is the reason why. Uh, we want them to be in separate groups because we actually want our playlist text to be delayed by 70 or 0.75 of a second. So we do want it to be. You see how there's like a little gap right here? I did move it to 0.75 because we want it delayed. So if we look at the demo again, let me refresh it. Because we want them at different intervals, this is why we're not going to group them. So there is that delay. So let's see what it looks like with this delay. So we get our welcome text and then we get our listen to your personal playlist text. So now we're done with animation on this slide. So let's go ahead and move on to our song slide. So for starters, notice how small my slides are. I can't even read what they are. I can tell what they are by hovering over them, but I don't need them to be that small. So to make them bigger, I'm going to hold control on my keyboard and I'm going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse to make them bigger. So I'm going to hold down control and I'm going to use my control wheel to make them bigger. And to move around, I'm going to use this slider right here. So let's go ahead and move to our feel good flow song. And I guess I could also just use these tabs up here, but I like using this window right here. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Now from here, all we need to add is the fade animation to our album cover. So let's select the album cover and let's go to the animation tab. And we're going to add the same effect. We're going to add fade and we do want it to be at 0.75. So let's go ahead and preview this slide. There we go. So the animation is working and that's all we're going to do for animation for this project. Now, also notice we have the star here now. This is just storyline letting us know that we have added animation to this object. Let's see. From here on, let's go ahead and start adding the triggers to our project. Now from here, let's go ahead and start adding in our triggers. Let's see, let me zoom out really quick. There we go. Now, for right now, I want to add 2 triggers. The first one is going to play our audio when the timeline starts on this slide. And the second one I want to add in is I want to actually add in a trigger that's going to show one of these layers immediately when this slide appears. So, which layer do you think we want to automatically appear when this slide appears? So, we want our music to play immediately. So, do we want the pause layer to appear or do we want the play layer to appear? What do you all think? Okay, so we actually do want the pause layer to appear, and this is because um, when we want the action, yeah, If it starts to play automatically, we want the pause layer to appear because that's the action that's going to happen when they select the layer. So we're going to add in a trigger that's going to make the pause layer appear. So let's go ahead and add in that trigger. So we're going to add a new trigger. We don't want to jump to a slide. We want to show a layer. So we're going to select show layer. We're going to show our pause layer when the timeline starts on this slide. So we're going to select OK, but I'll leave this up for a second so you all can copy it down. So I'll go ahead and add this, and we're going to add in our second trigger, which is going to automatically play our song right here. So this is our song when we reach this slide. So we're going to add a new trigger. We're going to go to media and we're going to select play media. We want to play our song when the timeline starts on this song. So these are the two, oops, let me bring that back up because I exited that too quickly. So these are the two triggers we want on this slide at the moment. So I'm going to select OK now, and let's preview it so we can see what we're working with. So this slide. Okay, let me X out. So our song was playing and we did have the pause layer appear. So that's good. That's what we wanted. Now from here, we're going to add the triggers to our pause layer and our play layer. So let's start with our pause layer. Now, first select the layer. So select the pause layer and notice that our triggers disappeared. They're actually all on our base layer. So if I select base layer, they come back. So we're going to go to our pause layer and we're going to add triggers directly onto this layer. Now, for this layer, we wanted to do two things. First, when they select our pause button, we want the music to pause and we want our play layer to appear. So we're going to add a new trigger and we're going to, let's see, first, we're going to pause our media. We don't want to stop it, we want to pause it. So we're going to pause our song, not when the timeline starts, but when the user selects the pause button. So let's see when the user clicks the pause button. So this is our first trigger, and I'm going to select OK. Now let's add in our second trigger, which is, let's see, we want to pause our song. Oh, and then the next trigger is we want our play button to appear. So we want to show our, not this layer, we want to show our play layer when the user clicks our pause button. So this is our second trigger. I'll push OK. And then let's move on to our play layer. So I'm going to select our play layer. And for this layer, when they select our play button, we want the music to resume. And we want the pause button to, the pause layer to appear. So let's add in those two triggers. So new trigger. We want to show our pause layer when the user clicks our play button. So this is our first trigger. I'm going to select OK. And I'm going to add in our second trigger, which is we want our music to resume. So we want to go to media, we want to play our media, want to play our song when the user clicks the play button. So these are the two triggers we need. I'll leave this up for a second so you all can copy it down. We'll select OK. And let's go ahead and see what our project is doing at the moment. So let's go to preview and let's preview this slide. So our music starts, we have our pause button, and when I select it, our music stops and our play button appears. Now when I select the play button, the music resumes and we have our pause button. And I can click it as many times as I want. Okay, so that's good. Now we have our pause and play button working, so that's great. Now from here, I do want to add one more trigger, and that is the trigger for the home button. So when they select our home button, they are brought back to our home page, and it looks like my scenes are now super small again. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So I'm going to hold control again, and I'm going to use my scroll wheel on my mouse to zoom in. I'm not sure why Storyline does that, but there we go. Now they're much bigger. But when they select our home button, we want them to go to our home slide. So Um, let's see. I like to select the object first and then select new trigger because it automatically adds it. So now I don't have to change the when. So when the user clicks the home button, that's me. I just like to do it. But we can also just select new trigger and fill it out manually. So let's see. We want to jump to a slide. So jump to slide. We want to jump to a certain slide. We want to jump to our home slide. And when the user clicks our home button. So this is the trigger we want to use for our home button. I'll leave this up for a second. And I'm going to select OK. And I'm also going to preview it just to make sure it's working. So preview this slide. And when I select home, I should get this pop up. We aren't going to the home slide because I didn't select view this scene. Let me just X out of this and we can fix it later. Okay, from here we could technically, what do we want to go from here? Oh, actually, I'll let you all choose. Do you all want to start working on the hotspots or do you all want to start creating the other songs? The other songs? Other songs. Okay. So to create our other songs, let me zoom in again. It got small again. We're actually going to duplicate our song. So we're going to duplicate our feel good flow song and we're going to be replacing items in it. So to duplicate it, we're going to right click on it and we're going to go to duplicate. So again, we're going to right click on it and we're going to go to duplicate. And let me zoom out really quick so we can see it. So I duplicated it. So we have slide 1.2 feel good flow and we have slide 1.3 feel good flow. So we have two of the same slides. And let's go ahead and rename slide 1.3 to our next song, which is Friendly Flow. Friendly Flow. And we want to rename it immediately because we're going to get confused which slide is which. So now we're on the Friendly Flow slide. And from here, we're just going to be swapping out items. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to swap out our album cover. And to do this, we're going to right click on it and we're going to go to replace picture and we're going to go to picture from file. So I'll do this again. We're going to first select our album cover. We're going to right click. We're going to go to replace picture and we're going to select picture from file. And in this pop-up, we're going to select our next album cover, which is Friendly Place. So I'm just going to select it and there we go. We replaced it. And the good thing about replacing compared to deleting it and adding it back in is one, we don't have to resize it. So it's in the exact same size. And two, uh, the animation is already on it. So we didn't delete the animation. It's actually still right here. So we don't have to add it again. So it just saves us a lot of time. And we also need to replace the name of the song and the artist as well. So I'm going to delete it and I'm going to replace it with Friendly Place. And we're going to replace the artist as well. And this artist is called Eden Keys. And I should probably be zoomed in. Sorry about that. There we go. That's much more easier to see. Eden Keys. Let's see. And there is one more thing we need to replace. Do you all know what it is? We need to replace the song itself. So in timeline, find the song. So I have my song is called Song. And we're going to go to the options tab. So first select your song and then the audio tools options will appear. Select it and under audio options, select replace audio and then in the pop-up, select audio from file. So I'll do this again. So select your song wherever it is in your timeline and then in options, go to replace audio and audio from file. So in this pop-up, select the song. So I have my song called Friendly Place. So there we go. And it has replaced it for me. So if we preview this slide, we should be hearing a new song. So I'm going to preview it. There we go. So it was a new song. And yeah, that's how we're going to we're going to use this technique to replace to create all of our songs. So there we go. And now that I think about it, we did forget one step. I do want to add hotspots to our forward and back buttons. And let's see. Yeah. Yep, someone just pointed it out in the chat. We do need to add triggers to our forward and back buttons. I did forget that. So let's go back to our feel good flow song and let's go ahead and add that. Now, we could add the triggers to the image directly. So we could select the image and we could add a trigger to it. But the issue with this is, let me zoom in really quick, is that the user is going to have to click directly on this image and there's not that much room for error. So let's go ahead and do this so I can show you all. So let's see. We want to jump to a slide. We want to jump to um let's see. We don't want to really use the next slide because Storyline sometimes has issues of knowing what the next slide is. So let's go ahead and assign this to our next song, which is Friendly Flow. And we want to jump to this slide when the user clicks forward image. So we're using an image right now and not the hotspot. So I'm going to preview it. So this slide. And notice that I need to be exactly over the image in order to click it. And then it's just not a good UI or user interface because you have to be really precise. And with a hotspot, there's more room for error. Oh, and by the way, I learned this from the Storyline Lab. So that was one of the first lessons we learned is how to use a hotspot to create a better user interface. So let me just show you all again. So we have to click like directly on it, and this isn't a really good UI. So let's go ahead and delete this trigger and add in a hotspot instead. So I'm going to delete it. And to add a hotspot, we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to go to Hotspot. And I'm going to use this rectangle right here. So I'll do this again. So we're going to go to Insert, and we're going to go to Hotspot, and I'm going to use this rectangle. So I'm just going to make it a bit bigger than the image itself. So they're going to have all this space to select the button. And let's rename it from Hotspot 1 to Forward Hotspot. Forward Hotspot. And let's add in the trigger again. So new trigger. We want to jump to a slide. We want to jump to our friendly flow slide. And we want it to jump to it when the user clicks our forward hotspot. So let's select OK, and let's preview it again. So now I don't have to be exactly on the image. So I can be like way over here, and I can still click on it. So this is just better UI because this image is a weird shape. So this allows for more user error in a way. So when I select it, we should be able to go to the next slide. But at the moment, I'm only viewing the slide and not the whole scene. So we'll select OK. And let's do the same thing for our back button. So I'm going to copy it. So right click, copy it, and right click again. And I'm going to select paste. And I'm going to drag it over my back button. And I'm going to rename it to our back hotspot. And I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste these two hotspots so we can add them to our friendly place slide because we forgot to add it to that slide as well. We're going to go to friendly place. Oops, did I copy them? I can't remember. So I'm going to select both of them and I'm going to hold down shift so I can select both of them at the same time. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to my friendly place slide. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select paste. There we go. And then I'm not sure why it was named hotspot 1. There we go. And then let's see. For friendly place, we do have the previous song ready. So the previous song would be Feel Good Flow. So for this trigger, we could change it. So when they select this button, we will be brought to our our feel good flow song. So there we go, because it's our previous song. We'll select OK. And now we can copy and paste it, and then we can organize our forward and back triggers once we have all our songs ready. So let's go ahead and copy and paste our feel good flow song again so we can create our next song, which is Like a Piano Dream. So let's go ahead and create our next song. And our next song is called Like a Piano Dream. So we're going to duplicate our feel good flow song again. So we're going to right click on it and we're going to select duplicate. And we're going to rename it Like a Piano Dream. Like a Piano Dream. And again, we're going to replace the items in this slide. So first, we're going to replace the album cover by right clicking on it and going to replace picture and selecting picture from file. So, and we're going to select the album cover and we're going to replace the song name. We're going to replace the artist name as well. And again, we need to replace the song name. So we're going to select the song in the timeline. We're going to go to options and we're going to replace the audio and select audio from file. Now we're going to select Like a Piano Dream. And let me check it and make sure that we have the correct song selected. So I'm going to select this slide. Yep, that's the song I want. And my pause button is working. So great. Now let's create our final song and then we can start fixing the triggers for our forward and back button. So let me zoom in again because it zoomed out. We're going to duplicate our feel good flow song one more time. So we're going to right click on it. We're going to go to duplicate. We're going to rename it by double clicking on the text. And we're going to call this final one Old School. And we're going to replace the album art again. So right click on it. We're going to replace the picture from file, the album cover, and again, we're going to replace the name of the song and the artist. I'm going to replace the song. Under options, go to replace audio and select audio from file. And then we're going to select Old School. So let's go ahead and see this slide. Okay, there we go. So that's our final song. So let's close this. So let's go ahead and start fixing our forward and back buttons. So let's start with our first song, which is Feel Good Flow. So for our forward button, we want our trigger to lead us to our next song, which is Friendly Place. So let me double click on this trigger. So yes, at this moment, this trigger is correct. So we want to jump to our Friendly Place slide when the user clicks our forward hotspot. So this is our first trigger for our forward button, or this is the trigger. We only have one trigger for our forward button. So this is our first trigger. And then the order of the songs is Feel Good Flow, Friendly Place, Like a Piano Dream, and the last song is Old School. So our previous song, our previous button, or our back button for this slide is going to lead us back to Old School. So let's double click on our trigger and let's change this from Friendly Place to Old School because it is our last song. So I'll just select OK. And then let's move on to our next song. So let's go to our next song, which is Friendly Place. Now, our previous button is going to lead us to Feel Good Flow. So let's select the hotspot so we can see its trigger. Let's double click on the trigger. And let's change this to Feel Good Flow. So this is what we want our back button to be because we want it to go to our previous song, which is Feel Good Flow. I'm going to select OK. And for our forward button, we want it to lead to our next song, which is Like a Piano Dream. So let's select its hotspot and let's double click on its trigger. So we want it to jump to Like a Piano Dream. So let's select Like a Piano Dream. I'm going to select OK. And then let's go ahead and go to our next song, Like a Piano Dream. And so again, let's double click on the back hotspot. This one is going to lead us to Like a Friendly Place. And our forward button is going to lead us to our last song, which is Old School. So let's see, Old School. Okay. And let's go to our last song, which is Old School. Let's select our back button. And our previous song was Like a Piano Dream. So there's a lot of repetition. So, Like a Piano Dream will be our back button, and our forward button will bring us back to Feel Good Flow. So, let's go to Feel Good Flow. So, there we go. And that is the order. Let me see what our story view is looking like. Hmm. Let's see. No, this is correct. So, Like a Piano Dream, and then we'll go to Old School. And then once we get to Old School, we're going to go to back one song will be Like a Piano Dream, and then forward would be Feel Good Flow. So this is correct. And let's see, we do only have 20 minutes left. So let me go ahead and show you all how we're going to add hotspots to this slide. So we can select this song, it'll bring us to that song slide. So let me zoom out. So let me, um, really quick. You might be tempted to add a trigger to a group. So right now we have all this grouped. And we could add a trigger to it, but we don't want to because it's unreliable. And if you've gone through the storyline project lab, then you know why. So I'm going to go ahead and create a trigger for this group, our Feel Good Flow group. So I'm going to add a trigger, and when we click on it, we're going to be brought to the Feel Good Flow slide. So we're going to jump to the Feel Good Flow slide when the user clicks the Feel Good Flow group. And let's go ahead and preview this scene. So there we go. And when I select it, we are brought to the song. And now when we select the home button, yeah, we are brought back to our home page. So that's great. And yeah, it works. But here's where the issue comes in with using groups. I'm going to ungroup this group. So I'm going to go to Format. I'm going to go to Group, and I'm going to ungroup it and watch the triggers. Watch what happens to it. I'm going to ungroup it. It just disappears. It's gone. This is why we don't use groups. So that's a very important lesson to learn. Because let's say we had 5 triggers on this group. Once we ungroup it, they're gone. So let's see if it comes back once I undo it. Okay, it does come back once I undo it, but it's just not reliable, and we're not going to be using groups for this reason. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete this, and we're going to be using hotspots again to select our to for selection. So we're going to go to Insert, we're going to go to Hotspot, and again we're going to use this rectangle, and I'm going to zoom in a bit so we can see what we're doing. So let's see. Oh, I have to select Hotspot again. So I'm just going to select the entire album and the text as well. And let's go ahead and rename this to Feel Good Flow Hotspot. There we go. And let's add a trigger as well. So we want to jump to the slide. We want to jump to our Feel Good Flow slide when the user clicks our Feel Good Flow hotspot. So you can see we have this greenish outline. This is our hotspot. And it does need to be on top of the group, because if it's below it, then the user will not be able to select it. So this is our hotspot, and then down here is our group. So let's check it really quick to make sure this trigger is working. So we're going to actually select this scene instead of this slide because we want to see our whole project. So we're at our homepage, we see our animation, and when I select the Feel Good Flow hotspot, we should be brought to our Feel Good Flow slide. And we are. So that's good. And again, if we select home, we are brought back to our homepage. So let me close this. And now we're just going to copy and paste this. I guess we don't have to copy and paste it. Let's not copy and paste it. Let's go ahead and just create a new hotspot. So let's go to hotspot. And again, the hotspot is under insert, hotspot. And then I'm going to select this rectangle. And let's create a new hotspot for each one of our songs. So Let's rename this friendly place hotspot. There we go. And then let's add a new hotspot. Let's rename this one like a piano dream. There we go. And let's add one more hotspot for our old school song. And we will rename this one old school hotspot. And let's save our project as well. So now that we have our hotspots created, let's go ahead and start creating our trigger. So let's select it and let's go to new trigger. And so this is friendly place. So when they select this hotspot, we want them to be brought to our friendly place slide. So we want to jump to a slide and we want to jump to our friendly place slide. So there we go. This is our next trigger. So we want them to jump to our friendly place slide when the user clicks this hotspot right here. So there we go. And then we're going to do the same thing for these last two. We're going to select it. We're going to create a new trigger. We want to jump to a slide. We want to jump to like a piano dream. When the user clicks, yeah, like a piano dream hotspot. So this is our third trigger. And again, one more time for our last slide. So we want to jump to a slide. We want to jump to our last song, which is Old School, when the user clicks the Old School hotspot. So there we go. This is our last trigger. This is our last trigger. And let's go ahead and see what happens when we play out this entire scene. So let's select this scene. Let's first select a feel good flow. So we're brought to our feel good flow slide. If I select next, we should be brought to friendly place. So yeah, that is friendly place. And then if I select next, we should be brought to like a piano dream. Yep. And lastly, if I select next again, we should be brought to old school. Cool. And then if I select next one more time, we should have made a full circle and we should be brought back to feel good flow. Yes. And let's go ahead and make sure that if we go backwards, we're going in the same order. So if we go back one, it should be old school. And then like a piano dream. Yes. And then friendly place. And then feel good flow. And then let's go back to home and make sure our other hotspots are working. So if I select friendly place, we're brought to friendly place. Let's go back home. And let's select like a piano dream. And we're going to select home again. And we're going to select old school. There we go. And we're going to go back to our home page. So we have completed a majority of this project. And we do only have 8 minutes left. And I have a challenge for you all. Your challenge is to build out the playlist. Let me bring up the demo. Your challenge for you all is to build out the playlist slide. So let me exit this. So you remember this extra, let me zoom in again, this extra blank cell phone? This is going to be our playlist slide. And your challenge is to build it out. So you're going to use what you learned in the first session and in this session to create the slide as well as all the triggers that go with it. So let me show you all this slide. So it's kind of like the home screen where if you select the song, you're brought to that song. So there we go. And we do have our view full playlist button down here. And when I select it, we're brought back to our playlist. So this is the challenge for you all. Oh, and for the challenge, if you could, please tag us on LinkedIn so we can see how you all are doing. Yeah, thank you all for being here and working together. That was a lot of fun.